Hey, it's me, NT, and welcome to my guide for Fill Up the Hole. This is a short incremental game where you build a city, automate garbage production, and toss it into a magical hole for profit. It looks like the Norp Apolog, but was created independently and plays quite differently. So thanks, Dev, for the key. Here's my top 7 tips on how to play Fill Up the Hole. Now, the very first question you have to ask yourself is whether or not you want to play the extended edition or the regular edition. If you play the extended edition, it makes buildings 2 times more expensive and the hole takes much longer to fill, but I guess you get that much more game that way. If you want to do this, it's super simple. On the main menu, just click between multiple options until you see some trash come out. Grab one of those pieces of trash, put it in the O and hole, and you've activated Extended Edition. Now this is the UI for Fill Up the Hole. There's a couple things I want to draw your attention to. First of all is the individual building UI. As you see underneath the building, there are frames that I'm calling the worker frames. Each empty frame means there's a clear space for a worker. Each filled frame means there's already a worker working there. This means you can see at a glance if you've leveled up a building enough to put another worker in there, or if you've accidentally forgot to assign them. Next to that are the level pips. These are little white pips that show what level you're at, and you'll get an additional yellow pip if you're able to level the building up again. This doesn't show possible upgrades, like later you'll unlock the ability to throw trash into the pit that every building gets. That won't show as an upgrade pit, but it does let you know when you have enough money to spend to buy something. The teleporter works the same way, only its pips are on top of the teleporter, and there's multiple colors. A white pip means there is a peon already summoned. An empty pip means there's housing, which will allow you to summon more peons. If one of those empty pits is yellow, it means you can afford to summon another peon. And if the pips are red, that means you actually have more peons than you have houses. You're over the maximum amount. Another helpful part of the UI that's easy to overlook is the unassigned and assigned workers up at the top here. This way you can see how many workers you have running around and how many workers you have in the building without having to try to count each one or losing them behind all the trash. Lastly, to the right are the different shortcut buttons and the occlusion button. If you leave occlusion on, you'll see the trash in front, which makes it easy to see if there's too much trash, which will cause a building to overflow and stop working. But turning occlusion off puts the trash in the back and makes it easy to look at and click on the building, which is important later on. So peons are the little guys that are picking up trash and tossing it into the hole. They have 3 emotional states. The first is happy, where they move 20% faster. The next is content, where they move at normal speed. And the last is sad, where they move at minus 30% speed. And the game says if they're too sad, they'll actually jump into the hole. I spent an hour doing my best to abuse my peons, but none of them jumped into the hole. They just kept switching back from sad to content. This might change in a later update, but right now it seems like the chance of losing a peon is extremely small. However, that 20% movement speed they get for being happy is definitely nice. To make a peon happy, they just need an open house that they can rest in. But if they're in another building, they're going to stay at content. So in addition to making your peons happy, houses also increase your max count of peons to let you buy more. But wouldn't you rather be using that space to build another factory or something? What happens if you have no houses? Well, peons don't seem to kill themselves, and sad peons will cycle back to content peons. You can also unlock upgrades that increase content and happy cycles, and can cause all peons to become happy with an unlocked ability called bliss. So their emotional state isn't really much of a concern. If you have more peons than max housing, the little pips above the teleporter become red, as I stated earlier, but you keep all the peons you have even if it's over your max. That means if you need more space, feel free to demolish your houses. Another strategy is to build a lot of houses and build up your max peons right before an earthquake resets everything. Then you keep those peons without having to worry about having so many houses on the map. While you may think that in a game called Fill Up the Hole, your main goal is to fill up the hole, I would argue that it isn't. Your main goal is actually to break the rocks that show up after the third building. This rock right here is taking the fourth building slot, and there's going to be a rock in every building slot after this one, so we want to get rid of them. Breaking these rocks give you two main benefits. First of all, obviously there's more space to build, those slots become unlocked. And secondly, breaking rocks give you yellow shards. Yellow shards are one of your main upgrade resources, which you can spend on the orange nodes in the upgrade tree. The only way to get yellow shards are from breaking the rock and when buildings hit 0 durability, which we'll talk about in the next tip. As an aside, the main nodes in the upgrade tree are blue nodes that require blue shards from earthquakes, yellow nodes that require cash, and pink nodes that require research points from the research building. There are also green and red nodes, but we'll talk about them in the last tip. To help you break the rock for yellow shards, you want to focus on upgrades like scaffolding that puts more peons on the rocks, and while you're at it, also upgrades that give more yellow shards from the rock. You want to always build a catapult next to the rock, and when you unlock vacuum in the upgrade tree, always have catapults vacuum shards from the rock to avoid the overflow status. The overflow status is when too much trash piles up at a building and the peons can't work. This includes at the rock. An easy way to tell if this is the case is you'll see exclamation points in front of the building. This means that even if all the other buildings are overflowed and clogged up, you need to make sure your catapult is still vacuuming trash from the rock. There are some abilities that allow you to clear trash, like you can get a bulldozer early on in the upgrade tree, but simply managing your peons is a better strategy. If a building is overflowing with trash, there is no point leaving your peons in there to do nothing. Click the minus worker button to empty the building and have those peons go out and clean. After you've played a while, you'll start to notice your buildings breaking. That's because every building has a stat called durability, and when it reaches 0, the building is destroyed. Now, normally durability in video games is a real pain to deal with, so I reacted pretty negatively when I discovered it. However, in this game, durability is great, because it's one of the main causes of scaling in the game. The more times a building gets broken, the better it gets. If a building is destroyed due to durability loss, you get at least 70% of money spent in that building refunded as trash, 1 yellow shard for our upgrades, max durability for that building type is increased by 500, and each of the same building type produces an extra trash. Every time a building is broken then, the durability level increases, and it seems like the money refunded as trash, and the amount of trash produced increases. You still only get 1 yellow shard, but buildings destroyed by durability loss will be the only way to get more yellow shards after you've cleared all the rocks. This means that mid to late game, one of your goals should be breaking your own buildings on purpose. 2 upgrades that help are the hardness perk, which during earthquakes, buildings lose 30% durability instead of being destroyed, and the durability down ability, which you can use every 5 minutes to reduce the durability of all buildings by 10%. Also, one of the features of power stations, one of the later buildings you can unlock, is the ability to assign a peon to increase durability loss of surrounding buildings. Or you can assign a peon to prevent durability loss if you're going AFK and letting the game idle for a while. That'll at least buy you some time until the power station breaks. But remember that durability only goes down when working, so you have to avoid the overflow status. Also, manually destroying a building only gives back 20% of money spent and trash, and none of the other benefits, so you can't cheese leveling durability that way. If you're looking for the best ending to fill up the hole, you'll need red shards. These shards unlock powerful upgrades, but I found it pretty confusing to get them. First, you need to get books. These books are dropped once from every level 10 building that is naturally destroyed through durability loss. Books give you two benefits. First of all, you can spend them on green nodes in the upgrade tree to halve the cost of leveling up a particular type of building, which is awesome. They also unlock the device page in the help tab, which describes minigames you can play with the buildings you have unlocked books for. For instance, the minigame of the factory involves flipping a series of levers up and down in a particular order. Although, if you already know the minigame, this is like your second playthrough, you can play that minigame without unlocking the book or getting the building to level 10. Another hot tip, you should check the help tab often because it silently updates with some really useful information, like which buildings you've already gotten red shards from. After you've succeeded in doing a building's minigame, the next time that building is naturally destroyed, it'll drop a red shard. Get to laser and the red shard tree and upgrades to get the best ending. So that's my top tips for fill up the hole. I've got one more secret the game doesn't tell you, and I'll share it after my conclusion. Did you know I'm releasing at least one video a week on interesting new games? So if you haven't subscribed yet, would you ride a bulldozer down to the subscription button and turn notifications on? If you're already subscribed, thank you. If you want to support me further, there's a Ko-Fi link in the description, and I'll send you a dumb little video as a thank you gift. This is an early release copy I'm playing, but the broad strokes should still be the same when it releases on July 17. I had a great time playing it, even with a few early playtest glitches I didn't cover. So if you're a fan of incremental games, I definitely recommend picking up a copy and showing the developers some love. Alright, here's my last tip, and it's great for active play. Every now and then you'll see a cloud float out from one of your buildings and over the hole. Click on it and it'll drop garbage directly into the hole. There are some different upgrades related to this, and even a building that will send drones out to pop the clouds for you. But I think it's way more satisfying to do it yourself, and it saves a building slot for something else. Anyway, that's it for me tonight. Bye!